Well, my name is Cindy Finch, and as Jill said, her and I have been doing this for about a year, so we love to come out and kind of hang out with you guys, see what's going on at the Transplant House, and there's always a lot going on, I'll tell you that. There's always some exciting things. We'll have more of Jill's music a little bit later. I always tell her that I set these nights up just so I can get her to play, because I enjoy her music. And I would tell you honestly that I will probably always have music in my life, because I found that music can heal things that medicine can't. There's just some way that it goes into us, and I love that. I love that. So we'll have more of that a little bit later. So let me keep getting myself going. Tonight we'll spend about an hour and a half together. So that's shorter than a movie and cheaper, so you can just hang out with us as long as you like. And we know that we are in your house tonight. So if you get tired, you go to bed. That's okay with us. And I know that many of you are on medication regimens where it's real exact. So if you need to get up and walk out, no worries. I'm going to tell you just a little bit more. My part will end with a poem. So you'll know I'm done when I'm reading that poem, and you'll go, whew, the girl is done. And then Jill's going to come back and sing a few more songs for us. A couple more things, housekeeping-wise. We have some of Jill's CDs in the back. If you'd like to buy one at the end, they're back there. We also have these books, Streams in the Desert. So while I was sick, tell me if this is you as well. People send you a lot of stuff, right? The flowers and get well cards and books and things like that, and none of which you can really read because you're so kind of whacked on medicine, right? It's hard. Oh, and a side note, I'm working with the whole country telling people, stop sending sick people get well soon cards. Right, okay. Because if I could, I would. You know what I mean? Get well soon. Okay, let me just do that really quick in all my spare time and energy. So anyhow, people did send me a lot of books, which still are on my shelf, but this one is not. This one stayed with me. It's about 5 minutes a day. It's a devotional called Streams in the Desert. It's 5 minutes a day on God's lap. That's how I would refer to it. Some friends of ours who enjoy our outreach here have bought these for you, so please take one when you leave if you'd like one. I have plenty in the back. And if they all end up going, put your name on my list, and I will make sure I get one back over here to you. So these are for you at the end. Okay, let's see what else I might be missing. Tonight, mostly Jill and I are here to bring inspiration and encouragement, hopefully, to you, to help you get on to the next steps of your journey in this process, maybe to get some perspective about what's going on. But really, our biggest desire is to be like arrows pointing to God's throne of grace. And so tonight we are going to talk about him, but don't worry. I'm not here to convert anybody, okay? You're safe. You're okay. Nobody's going to hit you over the head with the Bible. We're just going to spend some time like we're across the couch from each other, and we're just going to tell some stories and talk and be in this place together for a little while. One of the big things that I figured when we started doing this about a year ago, that if Jesus were in Rochester tonight, he'd probably be here. So we thought we'd just come over and see what he's doing over here. Any caregivers here tonight? I mean, I already know that, but I want you to raise your hand. Caregivers? Ah, so glad you're here. Here's my question for you. Why is it that we, as patients, get the name patient? Because it's you guys that are patient, right? I know we're a pain in the neck. I know it. I know it's hard to take care of us. And I just wanted to tell you thank you very much for taking care of the one that you're with. I know that it's not a small task. I remember getting all the flowers and the cards and letters and chocolate, and nothing was being sent to my husband. And I just remember watching the ripple effect of my illness that went on him. It was no small thing. I remember the first night that we were here, we were actually downstairs in your dining area and that living room that comes off of there. And so I said, any caregivers here? And one gentleman raised his hand. Well, several did, but we were real up close, like the couches were right here, so I felt like we were standing right here. And I said, well, thank you so much, because I know your job is huge. And I just want to tell you, I know we're a pain in the neck. And I looked over, and he was bawling. And I thought, wow, but he was just worn out. His son had been through such trauma and had just worn them down. His son was 21, just for months and months. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I appreciate you. Lauren in the back, thank you so much. Well, tonight, if anything, I promise you, because on every newsstand and every news show, they're talking about the economy, right? Everything. So I promise we won't talk about the economy tonight. But if I did talk about the economy tonight, I would just have one question for President Obama. And it goes something like this. My question for you, President Obama, would be, if you were going to have an economic stimulus package, why can't we have one for medical patients, right? Something that would guarantee that if I have to be hospitalized, I want gowns that close in the back and come in nice colors. Could we get that thrown in somehow? I want doctors that will remember my name. And I want medical technicians to have to stop saying, oh, this won't hurt much. Because they're lying, right? They haven't had the procedure, have they? Hate that. And I don't want anybody to refer to me as the cancer in room 4 or the heart in room 6. I had a name before I got sick. Could you use it? That would be important to me. And I think all doctors should be required to be patients. And I think that phlebotomists must find the vein on the first time or be fired. Am I telling the truth? Raise your hand. I know. I want a country where pharmaceutical companies develop a buy one, get one free for medications. It's a good idea, huh? Because we're broke from buying all this stuff. I think there should be frequent flyer miles at hospitals. I think there should be a rewards program. The more you use it, the less it costs. The longer you've been a patient, the better the service should be. Maybe a punch card for scans. Buy 9 and the 10th one is free. On us. I mean, healthcare should come with a guarantee. If we can't cure you, we won't charge you. In fact, if I've had to play, amen, okay, yes, I know, it's expensive. In fact, if I've played catastrophic Monopoly with my life, I've used up all of my copays and my premiums, and I've bought Boardwalk and Park Place, I want to pass go. I want to land on free parking. I want to get all the money in the middle. And when it's over, I don't want to be left with Baltic and Mediterranean with no hotels on them. I mean, gosh, I want that get out of jail free card. Could I just get healthy again? That's what I would ask President Obama. What about our economy? To heck with the national economy. To heck with not having a job. It's a full-time job just to be sick, don't you think? And sometimes it takes a full-time salary too. I understand. So that's what I would ask him if we were going to talk about the economy tonight. Well, when I was sick, I actually did not receive all of my care here at Mayo. And I know a few of you were here when we were talking about this, but I now live in Rochester. I was born and raised in California, and I lived in Las Vegas for 10 years. No, I was not a dancer there. But imagine the healthcare in Las Vegas, right? Think McDonald's drive-through. That's just the way it is. You get it, you go, psh, you're out the door. Anyhow, I hear people here talk, and they kind of criticize Mayo Clinic. They say, oh, Mayo's not what it used to be. Mayo just isn't as good, and da-da-da. And I laugh, and I say, ha, ha, you've never received healthcare anywhere else. I love Mayo Clinic. It's amazing to me what they do. And I know they're not always perfect, but if you're associated with that clinic in any way, thank you so much. They made such a difference in my own journey. And sometimes they actually made it feel like I was on vacation because their care was so good of me. So, since some of you tonight are on vacation, I'd like to have you get in vacation mode with me. So I've brought a few things that I would like you to try on your next visit to the hospital. First of all, friends, gals, caregivers, you have got to stop wearing these. Are they not so depressing? Definitely. When you put this on, do you feel different? I do. I just like a drone, right? So these have got to go. Get rid of that. You have a choice. You're paying for your vacation. You should get to wear what you want. My recommendation is that you get something like this. Now, honey, I got these at Victoria's Secret before I went into UCLA, and I just kept wearing them ever since then. All my little bags and hoses and tubes, we found a way to get them in. And I had one nurse that said, "You can't wear these." And I said, "Oh yeah? You'll just see about that." Wore them every day, and I take them still with me, even if I just go in for one of the scares that a lot of patients like us have to go back for. So, this is my command to you. Get groovy with what you wear when you go in the hospital. You'll feel a lot better. One of the things that can help too is if you wear something like this or just have it around you, have it hanging around you. It just kind of kicks back at what's going on. So my cancer friends in the audience tonight. Now I'm looking for stupid liver. I haven't found it yet. Stupid heart. Stupid kidney. So maybe somebody here is real ingenious and they can develop that, and we can just, set up shop here in Rochester, because there's a lot of people that come here for stupid hearts, kidneys, livers, all that stuff. So that's just a few of my recommendations. I also recommend that you take pictures from your family into your room with you. My husband brought all of our family photos, our kids. He even had a picture on the front door of my hospital room. So before people ever even walked in, they saw that I was a real person before I had been sick in that bed. And they asked me all about it. And I think I actually got treated differently. So permission is granted tonight to be who you are, even when you're in this life where you didn't choose to be. So just a little bit fun. I'm going to throw this out, but I'm not going to talk about it. Very good book. I'm not like plugging products tonight, but this is another thing. If you can't read books on CD, it's called The Shack. Take it into the hospital with you. You could at least provoke a lot of controversy in religious circles. If nothing else, read that book for that. Well, before I got here today, it was kind of funny. I had to do jury duty. That's a lot. Anybody work for the jury commission in here before I get going with this story? Okay, good. Then I'm amongst friends. Back in January, they had called me for jury duty. And, it's like so warm and toasty here that all the cars and roads and everything are really good. So anyway, I couldn't go to jury duty. I had problems with my car. So I call the jury commissioner's office and I say, I'm not going to be able to come in. And we proceed to have this back and forth conversation where Mary, the jury commissioner, Bulldog, says to me, "I don't think this constitutes an emergency, Mrs. Finch. You need to be here because people are counting on you. We may not be able to hold court today if you're not here." And I said, "Well, holy smokes, right? That's a lot on little me, so just do whatever you do with delinquent jurors." And she repeated it again. "I don't think that this is an emergency, Mrs. Finch." And I said, "Actually, you're right. You still need to resign me, and today was my day to do that, but I can't come in today." And when we were having this conversation, as irritated as I got at her, I knew that what was going on in January was not an emergency. But I knew what an emergency was because I had lived it twice with my family. When my husband and I had our third child, Brandon, I was pregnant, and Brandon was born, and I got extremely sick. Everything had been fine up until the point that he'd been delivered, and then I went into having this, all I can say was, I had chronic pneumonia over and over and over. Well, because I had a wonderful HMO living in Las Vegas, he prescribed me what you should prescribe people with chronic pneumonia, tons of amoxicillin and Tylenol, until finally he pulled a chest x-ray on me, and what came up was an entire white screen. Now, I wasn't familiar at the time with what that means, but the long and the short of it is that I had lymphoma covering my entire chest. It was 8 inches wide and 4 inches high by the time we got to that. It had been growing all through my pregnancy. When I left that doctor's office, I left by ambulance. And then we went into surgery for biopsy. And then when I met the head of oncology, he says to me, "It's not looking good. You have an advanced, very aggressive lymphoma." And I said all that I knew to say at that time was, well, God has a plan. I know, if I don't know anything else, I know that God has a plan. And he said to me, "Well, I wish your God would have shown up about a year ago, because at this point you've got 4 weeks to live." And I said to myself, oh my goodness. I had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a baby in a car seat. My daughter was in kindergarten. I just thought to myself, man, kindergarten and cancer should just never be in the same sentence. It was a very difficult time, and what I would say about that time was that it was my sewer. It was an ugly time. Anybody really aggressive cancer treatments? Anybody Yeah? Just a favorite thing you wanted to do with your life right about now? Yeah, hard stuff. Hard stuff. I'm glad you're here tonight. It took a long time to get through that, but we came up and we came out of that. We came to 5-year remission. I actually did a triathlon with 2 of my girlfriends in Malibu. It was a very exciting time. I remember even as a celebration, my husband and I and our kids rented motorcycles for the day out in the dry lake beds of Las Vegas. And we all did motorcycling. We got our dirt bike licenses. Like probably, I would never do that again, just so you know. I'm not the extreme sport girl, but that day it was fun. But I remember that we had our Christmas card picture taken, all of us lined up with the bikes. And my husband looked over at me, 5 years post-cancer, we'd had a big party. And he said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I just kind of don't feel good. I don't know exactly what's going on." Like that. And that cough and that day within 2 weeks turned into congestive heart failure, and into cardiomyopathy, into collapsed lungs, into anything and everything that you can imagine. What was going on? I remember being in a hospital in Las Vegas, and a doctor said to me, by that point I had seen cardiologist, pulmonologist, immunologist, all the ologists, any ologists that you can see, they had all cycled in. And one of the internal medicine doctors said to me, "So why do you think you're in complete internal organ failure?" I mean, if the doctor's asking you, I was getting kind of nervous. If you don't know, that's not looking good. So that cough became what I would say was a place of deeper still, darker still, worse still. We went into a new and lower sewer. That's hard to describe except to people like you, because you understand and you get that. I'm going to show a video right now of a little time capsule that might help you connect to the girl that was there. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit more. I was on oxygen within my home where I couldn't walk up my stairs, and just having the shakes and the tremors and not being able to breathe, and losing my hair, and having the feeling, I would call them sewer days, where my weakness was so overwhelming.
It's a really hard day, a really bad day. My arms and my legs hurt really bad. I have a really awful headache. I don't even know why I am doing this videotape when I feel so awful, except that I think I need to capture it so that when I do feel like my normal self, that I can look back and that I could appreciate where God's brought us to.
I had my lungs tapped with a long needle 7 times. I remember one time I had my blood drawn more than 60 times in the period of a month. I had congestive heart failure, and my liver was protruding out from under my ribs, and my lungs were collapsed, and I had chest tubes coming out from under my ribs, and the fresh scar as a young woman in my 30s running right, in the middle of my chest. An extraordinary amount of physical pain, a pain you can't describe to anybody, where you say, this could be, if there were going to be a day to die, this just might be one of those days.
I feel like I've never been as sick as I am right now. I feel like if this would qualify as being sick enough to die, I'm feeling sick enough to die today. And I'm afraid that it's going to go on, and that it's not going to get better. And I was just telling the Lord that my kids really need a mom, and they need a good mom, and they need a mom that has energy.
I remember one time I had changed so drastically, like the girl in the video. That happened rapidly, just over a period of weeks. And she put her hand on my face one night, and she said, "I don't think you're my mom. I think that you are an alien who's taken over my mom's body, and my mom isn't really here." My face was just swollen, and I was laying down all the time and crying a lot. And so I had her feel my face, and I had her listen to my voice and say, "It's still me. It's just that I've changed." She said, "I think you're a monster."
My body's so tired, I can't explain it to anybody. think I can do any more of anything. My face is puffy and ugly. My eyes are bulging out. I've got hair on my face. I can't see my regular shape of who I used to be. I just want to find out. I just want to find the girl that I used to be, and I want her back. And I'm finding it hard to suffer.
It means to hold hands with God in the dark, regardless of the outcome. It means to free fall over the edge and say, not my will, but your will. It means to say, you know more than I do, and whatever that is that you choose for me, then that's what I'm going to go with. I can't find a door handle, but I'm going to feel my way along with you until I find one that takes me to somewhere different. It means to stand tough, and when you can't stand tough, it means to lay down and say, you stand tough for me, God. It means to give up all of the things that you thought you were going to do in life and say, you got this, God, and whatever is going to become of me, it's because you do it. See, I know it's a sick thing to be sick. I get that. This thing of traumatic and terminal illness, just a club I never wanted to be in. It's not what I saw myself doing with my life. And so often I felt like I was camped out at this intersection. Perhaps this will sound familiar to some of you. The intersection of from bad to worse. I just felt stuck there so many times. It felt like my life before, who I used to be, was all gone. And I didn't know what was coming up ahead for me. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I'd make it out. I felt like I was trapped in this place, like this permanent hold button was pushed because of illness. I felt like I was living in these parentheses, and it was just hard. It was hard every day. But when I was coming here tonight, I wanted to think, let me pause for just a minute. My husband and I didn't have the benefit of a house like this or patients around us. Nobody we knew in our group was experiencing what we experienced. We didn't have tools to deal with the extreme grief and the difficulties that many of you are facing right now. And some questions began to emerge, and questions that you might be thinking and feeling perhaps tonight. One of them was, how long is this going to go on? What do I do with all the stress that comes with this parentheses? What about my family? How do I handle this? And will I make it out alive? I knew people that were less sick than me that were dying. And I thought, where's my future? I remember one time I told a colleague, it felt like I just had to hang on, give up, let go, die, be reborn, and grow up, all while everything was spinning wildly out of control. Well, a couple things became clear. I needed a way to deal with my problems. You see, I met these three people in my sewer, and I want to see if they sound familiar to any of you. The brothers D, three of them, depression, discouragement, and despair. I felt stalked on a regular basis by one of these three. There were money problems. I had one bad health report after another. Where was I living on the intersection of from bad to worse? And not many people talk about the fact that catastrophic illness can bring with it severe marriage and relation problems, difficulties for your kids, difficulties with your spouse. It's just part of it, and it's hard. And then I look like that to boot, right? I just had to lighten the moment up for a minute. Go with me on that. That was the least of my worries, right? How I looked. Well, as I considered coming here tonight, it's been my quest for some time that if I ever met folks that were in my same situation, that I would be able to pass along some of the tools that I learned as I made my way. So I wanted to boil it down tonight and see if I could just bring one thing. If I could hand you one thing tonight, what would it be? Well, here's the one thing. I had to learn how to put God between me and my problems. I know some of you are saying, well, how do you do that? Doesn't God just stand far off? Isn't he just kind of watching our whole cosmic world just do whatever it does, and at the end he'll just ante everyone up and see how everyone stands. Well, no, he doesn't. And my journey was able to teach me how to put God between me and my problems. Let me tell you a story. I have 3 kids, as you know, so Brandon is our littlest, and we have Jordan, who's our oldest daughter, and then Zach. Well, when we moved here a few years ago, this example of putting God between me and my problems came crystal clear to me one day, and I'd like to share that story with you. Brandon was in 2nd grade and Zach was in 5th. So in elementary school, they walked in our neighborhood school together back and forth to class each day. Now, I was just coming out of open heart and open lung surgery, and it took me a year to walk a mile on a flat surface before I'd been a triathlete. So I was getting my game back. It took me a while. So I didn't walk with him all the time. Sometimes I drove. Well, the next year, Zach went on to middle school, and Brandon, my baby, walked on his own, and he said, "I'll be fine, no big deal." It was a 10-minute walk each way. Well, off he went up the lane and back every day. It was just fine. Until one day he came home, and he said to me with a downcast face, "Mom, I have a problem, and I was just wondering if you could help me with it." And I said, "What's the problem? Let me tell me. Tell me. I got all this time on my hands. What's going on?" And he said, "Well, there's this kid named Kieran, and he's picking on me." And I said, "Somebody's bullying my baby? I want to know about that." So of course I call the school and I email, and they start dealing with it on the class and trying to restrict it on recess. And we're coaching him at home, and of course I'm saying, "Honey, use your words. You can get along. Make a joke about it. Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's probably not as bad as you think." And my husband says, "If he gets out of line, deck him," right? That's what Darren was thinking. And so we even had coached some different scenarios with him. That's just what our family does. Older brother, younger brother, the whole deal. One day he came home and said, "This kid's still bugging me, but I have an idea. If you would just walk with me after school, I think I'll be fine. So meet me right when we get out, and then it'll be okay." Because it's after school that he's really bugging me. Like, he's telling me I'm stupid, and my hair's funny, and he's telling me like I'm gay, and all these things. And he goes, "Mom, I don't know why he does that. But I think if you'll meet me there, then it'll be okay." And I'm thinking, okay, I can do that, right? And I'm also wanting to know who's this kid, because, I like to take him out, right? Honestly. Like, we'll go along, but I'll be like, "I know where you live," right? I'm coming. So the next day came, and he left. We dropped him off at school in the morning, and he said, "Remember to be there after school, and don't be late." I said, "Okay." So, of course, I'm going through my day, getting all these things done. I'm running errands, and I go, "Oh, it's time to get Brandon." So I go, and I'm walking toward his school, but I can see that I'm a few minutes late. And I can see Brandon already coming up the sidewalk, and his head's down. He looked just like this. And he was walking. He had a hand in his pockets. He was going along, and I can see it's already started on the other side of the street. There's Kieran, the bad guy, and he's just talking and lobbying these things over at Brandon. Brandon's got his head down, and he's just feeling bad. This kid's picking on him and picking on him and picking on him, and I see him from far away, and I see what's going on back and forth. And I say, "Brandon, hi, honey, how's it going?" And as soon as he saw me, his head went up, a big smile came on his face, and he said, "Hi, Mom." So I walked right up to him, looked at that other kid, "Get you," and I started walking. I put Brandon up on the sidewalk, and I walked in the street, and everything about him changed, his countenance, his words, his demeanor, because I was walking between him and his problems, right? Nothing changed about his problems that were over here on the street. Nothing. The only difference was that somebody stronger, somebody that had height, somebody that had presence was there holding his hand, walking along with him. It came clear to me that day. Something happened where I said, "Oh, I know that this is what God did with me when I was sick. I know this is how it is." He took my hand. You see, Brandon did something. He did 3 things I want to share with you. The first one is he dialed in. He came to me. He said, "You're my mom. He determined. My mom, I know who she is. I'm going to go to her. I think she can help me." He determined that I could be of help to him. The next thing is he dialed in. He said, Mom, I need your help. He asked me to come and assist him. So he determined who I was, and then he dialed into my help. The third one was that he discovered that I could help him with his problems. That I could be his protector, that I could walk between him and his bully, and essentially, I could say back to him, I know you. You're my son. I see you. I know what's going on. I've got you. I can walk with you through this. I know you. I see you. I've got you. It's going to be okay. You see, cancer is such a bully. Terminal and traumatic illnesses, they're big ones. And they feel like they stalk us in the night. And it's the worst at night, don't you think, when you're trying to fall asleep and all the world's quiet and you lay there and you just think scenario after scenario of all the things, all the waiting, all the time, all the suffering, all the wondering. Bullies are worse at night. My question tonight is, what if you were to determine to dial in and to discover with God and His presence and His resources and His gifts and His strength came to walk on the street and put you on the curb and hold hands and walk between you and your bullies? What would that be like? But before we go any further, I know some of you have already registered some quiet responses to me. In a room like this, it's often true that two different things are going on, maybe more, but two that I'm going to identify right now. The first one is that many people, to God, they're unable to determine who He is because they're irritated with Him. They're angry with Him. And because we're in this kind of home setting, let's just lay it out there. A lot of people don't believe in God. To them, He's nothing more than a science class debate about evolution and creation. Or He's a political party. Or He's a group of hypocrites. Or He's a crutch for weak people. That's it. They've settled it in their mind that that's all He is. And I understand that. I really do understand that. But did you know that God is not confined nor constrained by your opinion or my opinion of Him? He stands outside of all of that. And while I know that you can neither see Him nor feel Him or touch Him, I would suggest to you that just like gravity, the effects of Him are all around you. Tonight, this might be the conversation that we need to have. This might be for you. The second group of people in here, it would be very difficult for you to do my next part, which is to dial into God. And here's why. Because the church in the United States has behaved very, very badly. And a lot of people have been hurt by the church. I hear it all the time. And if that's you tonight, where abuse or difficulties or rejection or irritation or whatever the list is, because I know there's a very long list. I just have to watch the news or read Newsweek or any magazine for 5 minutes, and I know that the church has not done a good job representing God. If that's you tonight, I need to say that I'm really sorry that that happened. I am really, really sorry that the church has not